Today, we are faced with the most challenging situation ever encountered in our military history. Our adversaries' doctrine and military theory translate into battlefield realities through the proper utilization of materiel and organization. This doctrine and theory is scientifically supported by lessons learned throughout history. His equipment and weapons technology is equivalent to our own. He is offensive-minded, adopting the principles of high tempo, mobility, and surprise. He is well-trained and proficient in massing tank-heavy forces, supported by well-balanced combined arms teams, complemented by helicopters for air mobility and firepower. He will mass forces on narrow frontages and use every asset available to him to achieve success. This includes the use of NBC, on which he has received extensive training, and he is willing to accept high losses in the pursuit of his objectives. There are three basic offensive operations utilized by the opposing force: the meeting engagement, the breakthrough, and the pursuit. Today we will discuss the deliberate attack, commonly known as the breakthrough operation. We will look at the tactical considerations and formations inherent to the adoption of this well-planned and executed operation. The breakthrough is designed to rupture U.S. defensive positions by the massing of troops and weapons on a narrow front. Normally, a breakthrough is only attempted when meeting engagements and hasty attacks are unsuccessful. No gaps or flanks have been identified in the defensive positions, and the possibility of bypassing the resistance jeopardizes the commander's position. The opposing force commander, adopting the breakthrough, is prepared to accept a high attrition of armored vehicles in pursuing his objective. The commander relies on all his assets to provide him with information to determine the weakest U.S. defended area to initiate the breakthrough operation. Opposing forces in the advance to contact employ column formations to assure timeliness of concentrations of combat power. Artillery is well forward, and engineer units are organic to the regiment. Deployment into appropriate battle formations occurs only when it becomes necessary to overcome strong defensive positions. A typical column formation of a regiment is depicted. In their advance to contact, build-up areas will be bypassed when possible. River crossing operations are considered routine, with most armored infantry vehicles having an amphibious capability. The opposing force also has an extensive bridging capability. Radio-electronic combat is practiced extensively by the opposing force. The essence of radio-electronic combat is that the opposing force commander will systematically analyze our communications and radar systems with signals intelligence long before the battle. He will try to find the communications keystones upon which the command and control of U.S. tactical forces depend. The opposing force will attempt to destroy or disrupt at least 50% of our electronic nets during the first minutes of battle. Emitters, which cannot be destroyed by suppressive fires, will be selected for jamming with an intensity never before encountered in battle. Smoke will be used extensively in all operations. It is used to obscure the vision of anti-tank gunners and screen the movement of the regiment. The main tanks and BMPs have a smoke-generating capability. Smoke pots are employed, and smoke rounds will be fired by organic artillery and mortars. This force is well prepared to conduct NBC warfare. During training, crews have been known to operate for up to 8 hours while wearing their protective clothing. Regimental armored vehicles provide limited NBC protection through sealing, overpressurization, and alarms. The regiment obtains its NBC support through division. The regiment also has air defense weapons. They will be located in the most advantageous positions in the advance to contact to effectively engage enemy aircraft approaching from all sides of the column formation. Two ZSU 23-4s, normally separated by up to 200 meters, will support each advancing first echelon battalion. If there is an urgent need, this weapon system may also be used in a ground support role during the attack. The opposing force can be expected to field up to 100 artillery tubes per kilometer during a breakthrough operation. Among the artillery to be encountered is the BM-21 multiple rocket launcher, a high-volume area-type weapons system. And still further back, we find the SA-9 battery providing a regimental umbrella to further enhance the area air defense mission. They operate in concert with the ZSU 23-4s. Depending on the type division, air defense systems such as the SA-6, SA-8, and S-60 may also be encountered. 3 shoulder-fired SA-7s are found in each motorized rifle company. Once the commander is convinced he must go to the breakthrough, the battalions deploy into company columns approximately 4 to 6 kilometers from the FIBA. Motorized rifle company, mounted in BMPs, supports the tank battalion with a platoon in each tank company column. In this situation, we find a battery of 6 self-propelled 122mm guns with each forward battalion. This supporting artillery will normally accompany the maneuver battalion and is employed in a direct fire role against anti-tank guided missiles. The company deploys into platoon columns approximately 1 to 3 kilometers from the FIBA. First echelon of the tank regiment becomes a formidable sight in this formation. The final deployment is made when the battalions deploy into battle lines with a frontage of approximately 1,000 meters per battalion. This occurs 1 kilometer or less from the FIBA, or sooner if forced by friendly fire. At the decisive point of breakthrough, each battalion frontage is narrowed to 700 to 800 meters, or approximately 2,000 meters for the regiment. This assures high density on a narrow frontage. Command and control within any massed formation of this nature is inherently difficult. The opposing force attempts to overcome this problem by detailed planning, standard operating procedures, and geometrical alignment of forces. Preparatory fires of 50 minutes or more are employed prior to the assault. This artillery support is normally pre-planned and provided by regimental and division artillery groups. The regimental artillery group consists of 2 to 4 artillery battalions positioned 2 to 6 kilometers behind the leading threat force elements. In addition, helicopters and all fire support from adjacent attack sectors will be directed at the intended breakthrough zone. The opposing force's tactical air over the battlefield is considered an extension of the artillery arm, but plays an ever-increasing ground attack role. Targets for tactical air are normally pre-planned and include nuclear delivery systems, logistical organization, command elements, and targets of opportunity, such as moving maneuver units beyond the reach of artillery. Although 2 first echelon battalions deploy into battle lines, 1 battalion is illustrated. 2 tank platoons from each of 2 tank companies are in the first battle line. The second battle line comprises the remaining tanks of the two companies in the first battle line, a supporting motorized rifle company, and at least two ZSU-23-4 air defense systems. The second battle line advances behind the first at a distance of 200 to 250 meters. The basic mission of the second battle line is destruction of tanks, anti-tank guided missiles, and other anti-tank weapons, delivering fire on the first battle line, similar to Overwatch. It will also provide reinforcements to the first line and replace losses. The third battle line comprises the tanks of the third company of the battalion and advances 600 to 700 meters behind the second battle line. Its mission is to replace tanks in either the first or second line and deliver fire over its own elements on important targets or areas. The two first echelon battalions of the regiment are depicted here. Note the location of the combat support, the ZSU-23-4s and the artillery. Keep in mind, you could be the commander faced with a first echelon element of an attacking tank-heavy regiment consisting of 62 T-62 tanks, 20 BMPs, air defense systems, supported by massive artillery assets. This force, conducting a breakthrough, can close 1 kilometer in 5 to 6 minutes, depending upon terrain and resistance. They have regimental artillery groups and battalion artillery support, which will deliver at least 12,000 rounds of artillery in this sector during the preparatory and attacking phase, amounting to about 100 tubes firing 2 rounds per minute for an hour. This is the equivalent of 540 tons of explosive. Before our main battle area forces are confronted with this force, it is expected that the U.S. covering force will have attrited them significantly. The original attacking force will attempt to bypass the covering force, adhering to their doctrine of meeting engagement. It will be the covering force mission to attrite the opposing force and force him to mass so that his main effort can be detected by the time he arrives at the main battle position. The high adverse force ratio must be reduced to not more than a 3-to-1 ratio in the main battle position. This the commander accomplishes through the maneuvering of additional friendly elements, thereby creating a situation in which he can win even against superior numbers. Once again, remember, this presentation has been for the purpose of illustrating the advance to contact and deliberate attack formation. The threat force maneuvered relatively unopposed to assist in portraying this tactic in its theoretical simplicity. This is the type of offensive operation we may be faced with in the next war, and therefore is a problem that needs immediate attention and solution. There are basic or general solutions to assist commanders in servicing these massive targets in a short period of time, but the specific tactics, concepts, strategies, and threat equipment must be engaged by you in the next war. Increasing weapons density is one solution. This is done by allocating more anti-tank systems, the tank, HEGM ground, as well as helicopter mounted. When fighting outnumbered, the entire combined arms team must be used to service targets. You, as tactical level commanders, can increase the maneuverability time by slowing the attacking force. Cause him to see the battlefield as you want him to see it. Think as you want him to think. And maneuver where you want him to maneuver. Attempt to disrupt his plan of action. Remember, his air defense weapons are thin-skinned and easily killed and should be marked for early destruction. Cover and concealment is critical, as is the effective use of barriers and obstacles and electronic warfare. All weapon systems must take advantage of every fold in the terrain. The use of OPSET will deny the opposition needed data and limit his REC capabilities and increase the time available for target servicing. We can practice survivability, use hull-down positions, construct better field fortifications, and fire the first shot from advantageous defensive positions while covering likely avenues of approach. Employ techniques of fire distribution to ensure that every weapon system is used to its maximum. The defensive system must be totally integrated to optimize the effectiveness of our weapon systems and tactics, while minimizing his effectiveness and capitalizing on his vulnerabilities. Finally, our last general solution to the servicing targets is increasing our ability to acquire targets and increase our weapons effectiveness. This, you may say, is research and development, which certainly is a big part, But it is also the tactical commander's responsibility to provide training on recognition of foreign equipment, technical vulnerabilities, and to keep his troops well-tuned and rehearsed in quickly identifying and engaging targets at all ranges. Crew and individual effectiveness is the function of three factors: the weapon, proficiency, and tactics. First, you have a weapon whose capability on the battlefield is multiplied by the proficiency of the crew and the tactics employed, which gives proficiency on the battlefield. You, the commander, can win that battle through training by raising the crew proficiency and learning and employing the right tactics to defeat this force. The commander must also provide leadership, the necessary training, organize teamwork, and create the inherent morale and esprit de corps within his unit. With those facts in mind, we leave you with a problem at hand: the deliberate attack, a massive tank attack on a narrow front, and a foundation from which to build your answer. Remember, weapons density, increased time, weapons effectiveness, and survivability combined with training are the key to servicing the targets presented. Integrate these with the four basic considerations of combat: cover, concealment, suppression, and teamwork.